Okay, well, what we want to kind of get right into it. We'll talk a little bit about ourselves more specifically kind of at the end and how we came together and why we came together and all of that stuff. But we just kind of want to tell you a little bit about the housing market now. Obviously, that's like a big topic for everybody. Everybody hears rumors. What's going on? Is it a good time to sell? Is it not? We just kind of want to show you where the benefits fall, give you a couple of stats and some numbers just to think about bigger picture. There's so many moving pieces in real estate. So I guess the first question is, how many people in your own a house right now? Nearly everybody. How many of you have owned it for or bought in the last year, I should say? Okay, a lot of people. Okay. And how about who's owned it for more than 3 years, let's say? Anyone be more than like 5 or 10? 5, 10? You closer to 10 or 5? 12 years? That's good. Not most people. I think the average is what, every 5 to 7? Something like that. All right. People ask current market conditions all the time, right? I was just sitting here kind of dreaming up what we talked about, and 2 words came to my mind: fast and competitive. It's like nothing we've really seen before. So I got one stat to throw in here, and then I'll kind of let Colin do his thing. Talk about home values as a seller. Last year, in the first 4.5 months, the average sale price in Ankeny was $293,000. In the first 4.5 months this year, the average price in Ankeny is up to $325,000. So a 10% increase, the same amount of time from last year to this year. In a normal year, we'd say 2 to 3%.
Yeah, Iowa is just statistically 2, 3, 4%. We're like slow and steady Eddie type of deal. Larger markets, where if you remember in 08 and 09 when the market crashed, they would see 20 to 30% appreciation in a year. And when it went sideways, it went sideways hard and fast, and they lost 40, 50% of their value. So what we're seeing in Iowa over the last, essentially year and a half is a 10% appreciation, which for around here is unique. When you break that down from 10% a year or even a percent a month, that if you own a $300,000 home, every month your house is worth another $3,000 or $100 a day. And so we're just kind of in a unique situation here in Iowa, but it's not just in Iowa. It's the Midwest. It's in markets across the U.S. And so, what is driving that demand? Why is there so much appreciation? I imagine a lot of you have heard, is there a bubble? When's the next housing bubble? What's going to cause, values to decrease? And from economists and stuff that I listen to, they say that this real estate market could continue to go the way that it is over the next 5 to 6 to 7 years, because outside of just the cost of materials, there's no indicator that says financially anyone's really in an upside down position like they were in 07 and 08 and 09. And so,
yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's another question I get all the time is like, is this a bubble? Is it, is the market going to crash? And I think that is the biggest difference I know several people in here are in the business and all of that as well, but the biggest difference is how they were lending money 10, 12 years ago versus how they're doing it now. Yes, values are increasing. Yes, it's not going to probably continue to grow 10% every year. That seems, too much to expect, but you're getting the processes were able to be kind of worked out from some of the mistakes that were made 10 or 12 years ago. So I personally don't see a bubble bursting and having there be this massive crash and a bunch of foreclosures and short sales and all of that stuff.
I think buyers are borrowing different too. In 08 and 09, they were doing, my first home loan was a no doc loan. They literally took my credit score and approved me for a $225,000 home. And that was a month before I graduated college. And I was going to a commission only job. And they literally took my social security number. And they were like, here you go. Like, the market's going up, so we're fine. And looking back, like, what happened for a reason. And, but because of that, we're also now all just playing catch up. And so they talk about new construction, or I'm in new construction quite a bit. They say over the last 20 years, we should have built 1.5 million homes a year, and we only built close to 1.2 million homes. But you take that 300,000 home shortage every year, over the last 20 years, we're like 6 million homes short. And so what caused that to become so relevant last year? And I think a lot of it was COVID.
Yeah.
People started going, well, a lot of people moved from areas that were popular to rent to areas that were popular to own. Our group helped like 6 different families last year move from California. 2 or 3 of them didn't even look at the house before they bought it because of the cost of what stuff out there is to here, and being able to work remotely. So I don't need to live in downtown Chicago or live in San Francisco to do my job anymore. As long as I can get to internet, I can be as efficient. And so with that focus of, being close to work or, what do I need to do for work? It became, what's important to our family, what works best for us. And then I think also people got locked in their house last year for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And they were like, we need more space. We need less space. We've been doing all these projects. We're cleaning up stuff that's been in our basement 10 years. And so there's just a lot of different variables, I think, that brought so much attention to your home. And so
so obviously the selling housing market is pretty hot. I saw a stat when I was kind of looking at this that there's been a 47% increase in homes that have sold in less than 30 days since, again, the same time period last year. So less than 30 days, 294 out of the 477 homes that have sold through today from January 1st went under contract in less than 30 days. That's pretty quick. I mean, back if you could sell in a week or 10 days before, you were feeling like pretty good. Now, if it's on the market for 3 days, you're like, what'd I do wrong?
Yeah.
Why is it not sold yet? Why don't we
Yeah.
have 10 showings?
Yeah.
So when it comes to selling your house, there sort of used to be the norms, right? The market blowing up and COVID and everything has changed so much about what we do.
as much as it's a custom home, it's really a custom price too, because, if you say your budget's 500, then let's work backwards, or 400, how much space can you afford? How much is the lot you're looking at? Is it a 2-stall or a 3-stall? And so that all kind of breaks it down. But the process is let's come and look at your house. Let's get an idea of what it's worth. Let's kind of put that on the back burner, and then let's sit back and really look for homes that are coming on the market. Because what we're having is, you know, you're sitting back and you're going, okay, a new house came up in Northeast Ankeny. Let's go look at it. Hey, it's something we like. All right, let's write on it, but we've already done a bunch of work to your current home. Let's turn that thing in on the MLS the very same day. And, you know, the timing of it, like once you decide to go, is what's just gotten so much shorter and moving so much faster.
Yeah, a lot has changed about how we write up offers. You used to be able to write in subject to sale. I'm going to write this and I'm going to list my house in 2 days. And I hope, you know, someone else doesn't come in. And I mean, more often than not, you were kind of able to coast through on a subject to sale. Subject to sale doesn't really exist anymore. And even writing contingent on, you know, if your house is already sold, but you need the money from your house to buy a new house, even that puts you at a disadvantage in what's going on in the market out there. So there's just different approaches to talk through with your realtor about what's the best way to get the house I want in the time frame I want and not lose it. Because you're going to find people that are like, hey, I got this. And then you go out and, hey, I want to see this one. Like he said, I want to see this one. I want to see that one. It's like, oh, that one's pending. This one is going to show for 3 days, and they're going to collect all the offers, and you're going to be competing against 10 other offers. So now I had someone a couple months ago, day one, house was on the market. It was a $250,000 listing. They wrote it for $260,000, no contingencies, 20% down, and didn't get it. You know, that's only 10 grand over. That's not a lot, but I mean, when you think about a $250,000 house, I mean, you know, they're paying what, 4 or 5% premium for that and still not getting it, missing out. So after that happens a couple times, they're like, hey, you tell me how I'm going to get this one.
Yeah. We talked about it earlier, is that if a house hits the market, it's probably already been looked at by half a dozen people, either because a neighbor has looked at it, a family member of a neighbor's looked at it, a realtor knew about it and talked to another realtor in their office about it. So by the time it hits the MLS, not that it's like secondhand, but you know, there's a lot of opportunities where people are buying, and there's more sales being done this year off the market than on the market.
Yep.
And that's where, like, again, working with a full-time realtor and having them as an advocate in their office or in the community of like, hey, I have this person that's looking in this neighborhood at this price range. Deals are being put together that way too. And so, and when you do that, it allows you a little bit more time potentially with your current home. You know, one thing that Michael and I always tell is like, there are so many different options. There are so many different ways that you can go about doing something. We just want to present all those options to you, and you guys decide, hey, this is the best route for our family. Or, you know, maybe this time isn't right for us at the time. Maybe building's right. However that is, you know, there's different ways to do it, but working with someone that does it on a full-time basis, that's plugged into the market, that realizes how quickly things are moving, you know, just really makes a difference. One thing statistically we talked about, so people are like, well, you know, I could sell my house for a lot more, but what does it mean? I'm going to end up buying, I'm going to spend more on that next house. And so statistically,
I wrote this down so I could get this right, because I didn't want to screw this math up here. I lost my mic, see? You guys were all laughing when I was wrapping.
just going to have to hold it there with your hand.
Well, we'll make it work. All right, so average price in Ankeny, $325,000. Kind of recent projections say there's still going to be another, this is nationwide, this projection here, 7.7% increase in value in the next, by this time next year, let's say. So if you were to buy a $325,000 house today with the 10% down payment, obviously you're putting down $32,500 or borrowing $292,500. If you waited till next year, if you said, well, let's buy next year, now 7.7% values kick in. You're now buying that $325,000 house for $350,000. You're putting down $35,000 instead of $32,000, and you're borrowing $315,000. So you're paying an additional $2,500 in down payment and borrowing an additional over $22,000 just by waiting a year. And interest rates, you all hear about interest rates. Everyone wants to know, are interest rates up? Are they down? As a lender, you say it depends, right? What's your credit score? What you got now? How much I know how that goes. So today they're around 3%. The first quarter forecast for next year, pulling from 4 pretty reputable sources, is about 3.6%. So back to that same scenario, 325 with 10% down. Today, your principal interest would be about $1,230. Next year, it'd be $1,430. So that extra 6% or 0.6 of interest is adding almost $200 in your payment because of the increase in value. $2,400 a year, $72,000 in the life of your loan. Plus, you're missing out on that $23,000 of appreciation. You're talking about potentially losing out on $100,000 of value in your home by waiting for next year. So the question is, it like he said, we want to buy. When's the right time? We're afraid there's not enough houses. Or find a realtor, make a plan, lay out the plan. It is possible. We've got 80 transactions on paper this year. It's not like it's not possible. It's just having the plan, leveraging those relationships,
knowing your situation.
Yeah, exactly right.
But I think the thing is, it's again, like, okay, so yeah, I could sell my house, but it's going to cost me more. It's going to cost you more. Yes, your house would be worth more tomorrow or next year than it is today, but the house you're buying is going to be more. Your rate to borrow money is going to be more. And so those two big factors outweigh that. Yes, your $200,000 home next year is going to be worth $215,000. That $15,000 you're going to pay more in interest and the cost of that new house that you might be potentially looking at. And so again, money is a big piece of it, but we always talk about motivation. Like, why are you buying and selling? Are you buying and selling because you need more space? You need less space? Different school district? There's so many different reasons, but I think that's the most important one is personally, what is the motivation? The money right now and the investment piece of it is just outstanding, to tell you the truth. And that's why you see the market going crazy like it is. You got a question? Yeah.
So what are you guys doing with the appraisals not matching what is seen fair market value?
Yeah.
Is that being a big problem or actually what's happening?
Yeah.
What's the most?
So I think first and foremost, having that conversation with both buyer and sellers ahead of time of, hey, we just listed your house for $230 and we just sold it for $260. So here comes the appraiser to help us find if that's legitimate or not. Appraisers is a job that I would not want this year whatsoever, but I think they're doing an outstanding job considering all the different factors. And I think the biggest factor that's different from them than any other year previously is that statistically you're seeing a 10% appreciation. And so that house that was worth $240 is now worth $265 12 months later. And so it has come up, how do you tackle it as a case-by-case scenario? Everyone we work with is a case-by-case scenario. And so sometimes it's the seller coming down a little bit. Sometimes it's the buyer bringing more cash to closing. Sometimes a combination of both. But appraisals haven't been as big of an issue as I think a lot of probably the consumers and just the market would think. Like I said, I do not want their job this year.
Yeah, knock on wood, I haven't had one come back low yet, but
Yeah.
I think like he said, that's part of it is the appraisers understand the market the same way. When we go out to a listing appointment, you have to know that there is a jump, there is an expectation. And a lot of times you'll see those sellers be like, the market's so hot, can I just stick $20,000 more on it? That's when you maybe have that conversation. Look, here's a couple comps, I could maybe support that. But what we want to keep in mind, is it going to appraise? Because you could get someone to write you an offer for $400,000 on the first day, the first hour. But if it doesn't come back and show value, and the bank isn't going to loan that. But that's where it comes back to finding the right buyers and making sure as a buyer, you put yourself in the best position to make sure you have a nice down payment, trying to eliminate as many contingencies as possible.
We've had, we've had sellers accept offers for less than potentially another offer because the buyer had 20% down and they were willing to bring that extra cash to closing if it doesn't appraise. And again, that's Iowa. There's other markets, Minneapolis, they're seeing so much appreciation and offers coming in. And I just hear a lot of their stories because they're close by that. I mean, it's crazy. If you're a buyer in Minneapolis under say 225,000 and you're FHA or VA, there's realtors and groups that are paying cash for the house that you want to buy so you can buy it. And then you go get your loan for 45 days and they'll close on it for you. So there's realtors buying the houses for their clients so that they can go get their own financing. Because otherwise they're not gonna be able to do it, because for every home that's under 250, there's cash buyers that are going, look, I'll pay you 248 and I'll pay you cash and I'll close in 14 days. And, and so I think there's a scenario that too, with like sellers that we're working with, is like, it has to be a win-win. If you feel like you're just really gouging somebody, it might come back and get you when it comes to the appraisal. And so, yeah.
And he's talking about realtors like buying those out. And it just makes me think of how many things, I mean, in this stuff, it's not like it didn't happen before, but how many things we're doing differently when writing offers and representing buyers, waiving home inspections.
Mhm.
I mean, I bet almost probably 95% of resale properties I wrote an offer on, and every year before this, I would ask for a home warranty. I don't think I've asked for a home warranty on a single offer this year unless it was already offered. And then in one case, I had a buyer, the buyer who missed out on that 260, really wanted this house. And she goes like 10 grand over list price and says, should we ask for a home warranty? And I'm like, look, you put yourself out there far enough by being willing to go 10 grand over list. I'll buy you a home warranty. Because I mean, I bought more home warranties in the last 90 days than I did in the previous 5 years I have my license, because you just got to move all the pieces to make it all fit. Again, to get the people what they want. That's the line I always use. I'm just trying to get you what you want. Let me explain the scenario. You pick the outcome. Because I'm not the decision maker, right?
One thing I'd say too, it's like, we're talking a lot of housing and homes and whatnot. This situation is not just in housing. I mean, you can drive by Carl Chevrolet's lot and they don't have cars. Contractors, you can't get a contractor to come to your house to put on a new deck. And then that lumber is going to be 3 times as much as it was 12 months ago. Plywood for homes, they use OSB sheeting. 18 months ago was $9 a sheet, and today it's $36 a sheet. And the only reason it's going to keep going up is because people will continue to pay $36 a sheet for it. And so it's a unique time, but it's real estate. But there's a lot of other industries that are, kind of in the mix with all this too. So
we're obviously realtors and harping on how important it is to use a realtor, but a couple notes I made here that I wanted to kind of get into is lenders. The same situation. They have an extremely important part of the process as well. We're talking about setting a plan, how to get what you want, how to sell your house, all of that stuff. But it's important you work with a good local lender, talk through your goals with them, find out all the options you have. A note I made here was get qualified for more than the purchase price. In the past, you'd be like, oh, I want to buy this house. It's $350. You call your lender, you get your letter for $350. And then there's 5 other offers and you want to go to $365. And it's a Saturday afternoon and maybe your lender can't get on the phone and get you an updated letter. You better hope that your realtor's got a good relationship with that other realtor says, or knows the lender. And you say, look, they are qualified. I talked to their lender and I'll get you the letter Monday. And they're going to be like, why would we take $3,000 more when I don't have the letter when this one shows? So have the plan with your lender as well. Bridge loans. Talk a little bit about bridge loans. That's something that's come up more and more this year. I kind of knew what a bridge loan was. Now I got 3 deals going with bridge loans involved right now.
So that equity in your home, a lot of people are like, all right, I'm going to take this equity in my home and I'm going to put it towards my down payment on my new one. Lenders will do what's called a bridge loan, or you can do a home equity line of credit. But basically you're tapping into that equity to be able to use that as your down payment on a new home. For when you sell your current home, it pays off your current mortgage and it pays off that bridge loan or that home equity line of credit. We have a lot of people that are getting approved for a bridge loan. They are writing an offer with the bridge loan, and then they're never having to use the bridge loan. Because again, with proper planning, we can go in on a house and say, hey, we'll close in 60 days. But we've already looked at their home. They've already started to touch up paint and clean up the yard and kind of get that piece ready. So we find a house that they like. We put a closing at 60 days. Within a week later, we have their home on the market. Within a week, it's sold. And then we can a lot of times set it up to where on Friday, we have a deal where some people bought a house, used a bridge loan or potential bridge loan. Same thing. They worked on their house a little bit. We got it ready. We put it on the market. They're closing on their current home at 9 o'clock and they're going to close on their new home at 10 o'clock. And then we were able to find a buyer that said, we won't even take possession of your current home till Sunday. So they never used the bridge loan. They got approved for it, never have to use it. and they get a couple days to move, and they're in that home that they'd like. It was one of those scenarios, like, it's just kind of the right house popped up, and either go this route or you're not going to get it. And they trusted us, and it kind of all worked out.
And that was a competitive one too. Multiple offers, just had to get real creative. Escalation clauses is another thing that's coming to play a lot this year, which is basically my buyer will pay X amount more than your highest offer.
Yeah.
But I mean, then all of a sudden I got a call from a guy one day. He's like, yeah, so how high will they go? Because I've got 3 escalation clauses and they're all the same. So now we're all escalating each other, and it just, it gets crazy. So now you're seeing people now circle back and say, no escalation clauses.
Yeah.
So, but I kind of, from my opinion, that's a little bit of a disadvantage to your seller, because you're still getting people willing to pay, at least say, I want to pay $1,000 more, give me the chance. But it's gotten so out of hand with the escalation that now it's getting wound back the other way.
Yeah. Every situation is a little bit different. Everyone's current situation is a little bit different. And so in real estate, there is no perfect plan for anybody. There is no one size fits all type of deal. And so being able to adjust, being able to, said a lot last year, pivot, you know, we're going this way and then we'll go that way. You know, is what we try to guide people through that process. And I think that's the biggest thing that we can offer as an advantage, is that guidance through this process. This process is, it's more difficult this year than it has in the years past, because it's moving so quickly and because there's a lot of money involved. And so having that guidance, having a plan, and if that plan doesn't work 100%, how do we still make it work, but not quite as we had outlined? And so to wrap up, we just want to tell you a little bit about our group. I've been in real estate for 15 years. I sold commercial real estate with my dad. I live in Fargo, North Dakota. I worked for a custom home builder. 8 years, I moved home to be start a family. I have 2 little boys, and we live here in Ankeny. Michael could share a little bit about.
Yeah, what's funny about when we kind of dreamed this whole thing up about us coming together and merging our businesses, we never could have predicted. I mean, we've been talking about this for a year, let's say, rounding up a little bit. We never could have predicted the market in 2021 being as crazy or as different than it had in years past. But that has been such an advantage for us, just more relationships, more connections, more knowledge and expertise and experience. So we can kind of bounce off each other and just get more creative. So that was just kind of, it's kind of interesting how things just tend to work out the way they're supposed to. Yeah, I'm Michael. I was born and raised in Ankeny. I've been a realtor, licensed realtor for about 5 years. My dad has been owned a small brokerage in town for about 30 and been a realtor about that long as well. And yeah, last year, you know, Colin, I do have 3 boys as well. Lived in Arizona 9 years, moved back again to just grow my family. I had my first 2 sons out there, but needed to be closer to family and grandparents and all that. And just love the Ankeny community. Coming back here, you know, one of the things I kind of told my wife getting into this business and everything was, got to hit the ground running, got to get involved, got to, you know, be a member of the community and all of that. And I obviously support the chamber, was on the chamber board until this past year is when my term came off. I'm on the Uptown Association board right now. That's why Alex is letting us use it. Well, I'm sure he would let me use it otherwise, but one of the reasons why he's letting us in here is just those connections, you know, and having those connections.
So they had Ankeny Real Estate Services, him and his dad. I had my own group, own team thing going on. And I think together we just looked at it and said, we could market better. We could help our clients better. We could, you know, make each other better. And so January this year, we started Ankeny Real Estate Group. We're licensed with Remax Precision. We have 2 full-time staff. We're actually adding a 3rd full-time staff here in a couple of weeks. We have a couple buyers or team agents, and just running it more like a business, you know. And it's, I don't know, it's been good.
Yeah, I think we both kind of had, you know, I mean, dreams, I guess I would say, of just doing things differently than just the traditional, you know, what you expect. And that's kind of where coming together really just took off, is we're not the one guy, the one face, you know. One of the things he always said to me when we talked about that, he's like, my name's all over my business. Like, I don't want my name on everything we do. I don't want to be just the guy that everybody, you know, like, let's build something. Like he said, run it like a business. Let's put good people in place, staff members, everybody doing what they're supposed to do. And that's what I learned. I had this, we did another kind of thing like this a couple months ago. And that's a note I remember I made was last year with all COVID and everything, I realized more than anything is focus on what you do well, stay in your lane, allow the people around you to do what they do well. And you'll all be more successful. When you try and be too many things to too many people, it's just difficult. And I found myself being at home, trying to do everything for everyone. And I'm like, I'm not happy doing this. I want to go out and do my thing, and I want to have people doing their thing. And as I'm thinking that, like this kind of, like we said, just kind of came together, and been working on it for a long time. But yeah, in January, kind of rolled it out.
Last thing I think with success of anything is connections. We were talking about it before this had started with Zoom, and like, sure, you can jump on a camera, you can have a quick conversation, but those actual relationships, those networks that you build, you guys being a part of this group, being a part of the community, that will pay more dividends now and in the future than anything. And you'll make friends and you'll have good times, and like connections are big. It's not what you know, it's who you know type of deal. And when you need something, who do you go to type of deal? And just being a resource and trying to add value. And at Precision, Remax Precision is one of the fastest growing brokerages. It's #1 in the market right now. And I've said this since I joined them 2 years ago, and they just keep recruiting. We just keep saying good people doing good things, and if you're a good person and you want other people to be around you, it becomes contagious. And yeah, appreciate you guys letting us talk to you this afternoon. Or
anyone have any questions or anything came up? No? Cool. I got Jeffrey, of course. No.
So like 10 years, right? So interest rates go back, you see the market change, maybe they're like 4.5% or 5. Do you think there'll be a gap in people buying or selling, or actually selling their homes because they won't want to get into it, a higher interest rate? Because a lot of people got 2.5. Do you think there'll be a gap in the buying and selling process because of that?
I think there's always it depends on what their motivation is. If they have a job that's taking them to Arizona,
right,
that job's probably going to be worth it for you to look at your home and go, all right, well, I have a 2.5% interest rate, but now I got to go to a 4. Families downsize, kids go to college, people have kids and need more space. And so that's where I think, again, it comes down to like the motivation and what is the reasoning behind you either buying or selling, and at the time, someone was like, well, aren't you worried about the market crashing in like 6-7 years? Yeah, that potentially could happen. But if we're so worried about what's going to happen 8 years, you're going to miss what's right here in front of you. And, people are like, well, I don't want to spend what their prices are now. And it's like, well, if I were to tell you that this same house is going to be 10% more in 12 months, aren't you going to be kicking yourself for not buying the thing now for 300 when next spring it's going to be 340 for the same thing? And the rates is going to be 4%, not 3%. And so
I was thinking that when we asked how many people had bought in the last year, and there were like 3 or 4. And I'm like, depending on when you got in on that and how much of that 10% increase you were able to capture, and then maybe another 8 or 10% in this next year, I mean, it's probably pretty scary to like have a house under contract and have COVID and all that hit. But when you look back on it now, it's like you got in at the perfect time.
Yeah.
Interest rates were still pretty low and values are just continuing to blow up. And that's kind of what I thought when you asked that question too, is kind of that example I gave about the 325 and the potential money you leave on the table. If somebody is still in the same house 10 years from now, locked at a 2.75 or whatever, that means their equity ideally has continued to grow and home values have continued to go up. So maybe the interest rate isn't as important as what the monthly payment is. And if you've got more equity, it means you have a larger down payment. Like he said, maybe circumstances change. You might be able to have the same or less of a payment at a higher interest rate if you've got more money to put down, and your house was 325 today, and 10 years from now it's 575. I mean, you're going to be sitting pretty good.
One of the reasons that Iowa is just kind of growing is that we've never seen those big appreciation numbers. The cost of living in Iowa is super affordable compared to other markets. Like, we don't deal with the other problems of like Minneapolis, where there's 45 people trying to buy the same house that's listed for 250. And so, we're very fortunate to live where we are. A lot of the trends and the bubbles hit the East and West, and then they slowly trickle to the Midwest. And by then there's a new bubble and everyone's adjusting, going in a different direction by then. So, yeah. So
Cool.
All good?
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for letting us talk.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.